one purpose, to love and take care of each other. Love yourselves, love your communities, love your families, but above all, love life. Thank you.
I have a dream.
Difficulties of segregation and discrimination exist in every city, in every state of the Union, producing in many cities rising tide of discontent.
So even though we face difficulties
In time of domestic crisis, and of goodwill, and generosity, to be able to unite.
it is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be such evident that all men are created. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
The events which surround us. I refuse to believe that we are bound to racism and war, that peace, brotherhood, and sisterhood are not possible. I believe there's an urgent need for people to overcome oppression and violence without resorting to oppression and violence. I believe that we need to discover a way to live together in peace, a way which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of this way is love. 1, 2, 3, 4.
agency. On March 28th and 29th of last year, Social Services Agency staff and community volunteers did a 24-hour survey of homeless people in Tuolumne County. A senior at Sonora High School, Callie Bateman, asked us if she could video some of the interviews with homeless as her senior project. I am thrilled to be able to share with you today this amazing video. Here is Callie Bateman's Voices of the Homeless.
And I felt 2 feet landed on the ladder and broke my hip in 3 places. And then while I was in the hospital, I got evicted, like I said. The guy was living there figured I shouldn't pay my rent, so he didn't want to pay me there. So I was in the hospital, and then I ended up coming to here, which, yeah, it was a blessing, actually, because it helped me out a lot. I never figured in my life that I didn't have a home.
So far as to sit down and discuss, okay, this is what's going to end up happening. The last night we spent in Rowan, it was -2 degrees, and we had nothing but 2 blankets to share with us.
We were in a little trailer with no heat, no power, it leaked, it's raining, snowing.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad. Yeah, I mean, it's been hard. I mean, it's been real hard. But we're done because I can't see any day for the rest of my life without it. That's it.
There are 3 major predictors of homelessness. The first one is to be born into poverty. If you are born with not very much money, chances are very good that you're going to end up being in poverty or being homeless at some point. Probably poverty will follow you your whole life. The second one is to be born with a disability, or to have a disability happen to you, to become disabled somehow, is a very, it's just one of the red flags.
They can't see my inside, so they don't believe it. Short-term memory you can't see, and I have short-term memory loss. So here now, she's gone here now, if it's important. So that led to my homelessness.
Before homeless, I worked. I had a job, I had a house, I lived in the valley. My landlord would not fix my house. I refused to pay rent. She gave me eviction notice. I got the eviction notice on me. But you know, there's no sense. I told them when I left the valley, I was coming to the mountains. I called this my mountain. And I am not coming back to the valley. Because I'm a Vietnam veteran. I cannot get no help. I spent 4 years of my life in Vietnam, and I can't get no help. Something's wrong somewhere. And I'm homeless. And it's cold out there.
After doing this for 7 years, I would say that there is nothing wrong with people who are homeless. What's wrong is the systems that we have in place right now that are supposed to be helping, that for whatever reason are inadequate to deal with this particular problem. Homeless people have problems. There's no question that they have problems, but so do people who are living in housing.
The last big month we had my trailer caught fire. And I really didn't know that many people here, so I went to the Red Church, and Father Wood, which is an outstanding man, he's the one that runs the homeless shelter up there. And he got me involved in ministry.
The first thing was that for years we have felt God telling us to open our doors. And actually the message opened my doors. And we were struggling over the years with what that meant. So finally last November, when I was away on a retreat, it became very clear that we needed to just simply open doors. The more people will get involved with these kind of ministries, the more they're going to understand and see that these people are precious to God's eyes, and they should be precious to us. And that they're individuals, they're not just to be labeled as homeless.
Some people are actually rude, you know. They see some guy walking down the street in dirty clothes or something, you know, they say, well, this guy ain't got nothing going for him.
because you want it that way. It's because that's the way life just happened to turn, you know. I mean, nobody deserves to be homeless. But, you know, there's nothing, you know, with the economy and everything nowadays, you know, you have to deal with what we have.
A lot of people have worked hard all their lives, and all of a sudden they get some kind of disability, back injury or something, and there's nowhere for them to go.
The misconception is that they are somehow responsible for their situation because they just won't pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And, you know, I wonder how many people sitting on my side of the desk could find their bootstraps if they had to.
We had everything going for us. We had money, we had a place to live, we had cars, 4 cars. We had our kids, and then overnight it was all gone. So nobody should ever look down at a homeless person and think that they will never be there.
You'll never say that will never happen.
Because it can happen to anybody.
Just recently, about a month ago, the city received a phone call from one of our members who didn't like the ministry going on. They had to check out our code to make sure that it was up to code before having over that occupancy, and which it was not. And so they came and did their inspection and decided that we could not have anybody stay overnight over at the parish hall. We need to be opening up our doors in our lives to those who are less fortunate than ourselves. We're very greedy people, very materialistic people, and that's got to stop if we're going to make a change.
You know, there's people that are good and there's people that's bad. But don't judge a person by their looks. Don't judge a person by what's up front. You know, judge a person by what's inside.
There's a few steps I believe that need to be taken. The first thing is that I have spoken with several pastors in our area. Just had lunch with one yesterday that has offered to put in a commercial hood for us for free over in our kitchen so we can set up a soup kitchen from time to time to feed the homeless and support. And so that's in the works. And we're trying to form a board of individuals who represent churches throughout the community to begin a ministry that will be like a parachurch kind of ministry, representative of the community, to establish shelters and also networking between churches to help pool resources for the sake of the needs of the poor. And that's the next step. That's the next main step. So we're actively right now pursuing individuals that will make up this particular board, get nonprofit status, and have a plan in place, begin to establish shelters in the area. And that's the next step.
What needs to happen is some sort of balance needs to come about. You know, if there is an acceptance of this population, when we don't want them to be homeless, then we need to come up with a way to create housing for them so that they are not constantly housing insecure. Like they don't think they're going to be put out, you know. And the programs that we offer, which are a temporary shelter for 35 days and a transitional shelter for 6 months, I wish that we could go beyond it. I wish that we could start creating permanent, affordable housing with supportive services on site so that homeless that get moved in, out of, you know, off the streets or out of their cars would not have to worry about losing it in 35 days or in 6 months. That, you know, they would be home.
It's real. Homelessness is real. A lot of people just turn their heads, don't want to deal with it, don't want to believe. You know, I've never been homeless. This is my first time. Let me tell you, it is really real. And you realize how cruel people can be just because of the word homeless. And then you also run into some awesome people that just open their hearts and their home to you. I mean, do whatever they can. I mean, this community here, well, I was blown away of how much people do want to help. Because other cities, they just turn their head like it doesn't even exist. And it does. And there's a lot of children that are homeless, and they shouldn't be. You know, just don't ignore them. Don't turn a blind eye towards them. You know, deal with it. Yeah.
Thanks for coming today. Thanks so much for each one of you being here. I want to share more with you now about the homeless survey and the people who are homeless in this county. I first want to say how incredibly honored I am to be asked to speak today. I was surprised when the Motherlode Martin Luther King Jr. Committee asked me to speak, and I want you to know this is one of those experiences that is totally out of my comfort zone. So I have my water, and I put a little lemon in it. It's supposed to keep my mouth wet. Anyway, I appreciate the committee has done an amazing job, just wonderful, outstanding celebrations of Dr. King's legacy for the last 13 years. Since they decided that this year they would push me into the spotlight, I decided that I will push back at them a little bit and at you later on, before I leave the stage anyway. Whether I was pushed or not, being asked to speak has given me a chance to personally honor how great the impact Dr. King had on me. You see, I was born and raised in the South in the 1950s. I remember when the J.C. Penney's, where my mother took me to shop for school clothes, had two water fountains, one with a sign, white only, and the other with a sign for colored. I was very fortunate, though. I was the child of two liberal Democrats who marched in civil rights demonstrations in the 1960s. They didn't take me or my sisters along because it was dangerous. But I knew what was going on, and I knew that the racism and segregation all around me in North Carolina was wrong. And at an early age, I believed in Dr. King's words and his cause, and today I believe that cause goes far beyond racism. Last October, I attended a 3-day workshop on the history of the war on poverty. I never considered myself much of a history buff, but I was on the edge of my seat for the whole 3 days. They showed a lot of videos like this, and those from the 1960s, which always made me cry. And I really understood the fact that poverty, it is poverty that is the root cause of so much of the struggle we keep having in this country. The paradox of poverty in the midst of plenty. That's what LBJ said when he spoke before Congress on the passing of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the Economic Opportunity Act. We still haven't figured it out in this country, where we have so much abundance, so much plenitude. We still don't know how to keep a roof out over everybody's head and good food in everybody's belly and give everybody the opportunity for education and prosperity. The war on poverty, as you probably know, gave birth to community action, and this movement is very much what Dr. King spoke about in his last years. There's a strong link between the beloved community and community action. And one of those links is a woman named Judy Barley. Judy was a founding member of the Amador Tuolumne Community Action Agency. She retired in the 80s to Amador County and served on the board of directors for ACA for many years. But in the 1960s, when Judy was living in New York City, she was a nurse in the pediatric oncology unit at Sloan Kettering Hospital, and she served on Dr. Martin Luther King's Medical Committee for Human Rights. She took part in civil rights demonstrations all over the South, and she was the first responder medical person to the marchers when they suffered abuses on the marches, such as rock throwing and beatings. There are other links between community action and the beloved community, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about this survey last year, and I'd like to use it as an opportunity to get to the heart of what I want to talk about. If you would imagine, please, that it's 2010 and the U.S. Census is going on. There's a knock on your door, you respond, and the census taker starts asking you questions you expect, like how old you are and what is your ethnicity. And then the census taker starts asking you questions like these. How often do you drink? How often do you use illegal drugs? Have you ever been diagnosed with or think you have a mental illness? Do you have AIDS? Have you ever been abused by your partner, or have you ever abused your partner? How do you think that you would respond to a census taker who had the nerve to ask you those questions? Well, those are exactly the questions that we had to ask in our survey. Because, you see, the granddaddy of funding for services for homeless people is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We want to receive federal funding in our community to serve the homeless, then we have to survey and we have to ask those questions. Personally, I think it's amazing that anybody answered them. And yet they did. You know, because the 128 adults that we surveyed are used to having society blame them for being homeless. And what are those types of questions, what are they really asking? They're asking, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Tell us what is wrong with you, so that it can be something that's outside us, so that we don't have to blame ourselves for what has happened to you. Tell us there's something wrong with you. And that is the way it is with the federal government. They will look to blame something, anything, rather than take responsibility. But here's some interesting facts. In 1978, the Department of Housing and Urban Development's budget for housing was over $83 billion. And from 1976 to 1982, HUD built over 755,000 units of housing in the United States. But then something happened. Because by 1983, HUD's budget for housing had dropped to $18 billion. And by 1983, HUD had all but eliminated its housing construction programs, and since 1983 has only built 265,000 units of housing. And then there's this grim fact which follows. In 1983, the first public emergency homeless shelters began appearing in cities across the United States. There may be a lot of reasons why, as a society, we want to believe that there is something wrong with people who are homeless. Maybe it's fear that we might end up like them, and we might. Maybe we do it to distance ourselves from the problem. I don't know. What I do know is that for many years now, it has been federal policy to point the finger at the homeless and to never acknowledge that it's actually cutbacks in funding and elimination of any federal commitment to building housing that has created the massive episodes of homelessness we are now seeing in the United States. Back to that survey, I'm proud to say that we, social service people and community volunteers who designed that survey, asked other and better questions. We asked the folks to tell us why they were homeless. We asked them to tell us what could have prevented them from becoming homeless and what they needed that they weren't getting. There was a range of answers. Some people talked about jobs and needing job training. Some people talked about needing transportation. Some people talked about more immediate needs such as medical and dental care. But what, if you had to guess, what was the number one thing that homeless people said they needed, what would it be? What do you think the thing is that well over half of them said they needed? Affordable housing. That's what they said. They needed housing. that was affordable to them. Here are some of their actual words. This is short to the point. Get me a home. I need permanent RV parking with utilities hooked up. I'm going back to Nantucket to live with the man who battered me because I can't afford a place of my own. Let us help. Let us help build apartments and houses for ourselves. And to the question, what do you need that you haven't been able to get? 54 of them responded, we need housing that we can afford. And that brings me to the other reason I'm up here, and the other area in my life where Dr. King's words have had the biggest impact. As you probably know, a group of affordable housing advocates has been eyeball to eyeball with county officials and the Tuolumne County building industry for almost 4 years to add an inclusionary ordinance so that all new construction will include housing that is affordable to low income and medium income. This has been a rather grim struggle, and there have been many times when I would have described the opposition to this ordinance as my enemies. These are my enemies. And yet I accept Dr. King's guidance to respect them not as enemies, but as adversaries. And this warning from Dr. King is very important to me. Don't allow anybody to pull you so low as to make you hate them. And I have struggled to hold on to those words. This is a place where I would like to push you a little bit for some local action. After 4 years, believe it or not, we are still arguing before the planning commissions for housing that is truly affordable. The building industry wants to call housing affordable when it's built to sell at $275,000. They only want to build to the high end of moderate income, which is $66,000 annually for a family of 4. We think, the affordable housing advocates think, these inclusionary units should be affordable to median income, which is $55,000 for a family of 4, and to low income, which is $44,000 for a family of 4. The building industry also wants to take rental housing out of the ordinance altogether, which seems absurd to me when you realize how many of this county's low-paid wage earners live in rental housing. So this struggle with our adversary continues. And if you could allow yourself to be pushed out of your comfort zone a little bit, I ask you to come to the Board of Supervisors hearing on this inclusionary ordinance. It's in February. It will mean spending an afternoon listening to the building industry, but listening is one of the prime strategies for nonviolent social change that Dr. King advocated. And if I can do it, you can do it. Just one more push for me today, but this one is going to be a very firm push. Please tell me why you and I, all of us in this room, are not preparing a candidate to defeat George Bogdanovich the next time he runs. Have you ever looked at this man's website? Our representative in Washington, he is a conservative Republican who supports the Bush administration's agenda. Excuse me if this is just a little too far outside of local action, but if there was ever a time to suit up a candidate that we support, this is it. Let me remind you of this. In November of 2007, a school teacher beat Richard Pombo. We can do this too. So why aren't we looking? Why aren't we actively looking for a candidate for Bogdanovich's congressional seat and for those of our state legislators as well, David Cargill? Why aren't we looking? I've lived in this county for 30 years. There was only one time I can remember where a representative actually represented me, and that was Richard Lane. That was way too long ago. So I'm going to all these meetings as an affordable housing advocate, and I see plenty of folks out there that I think I can support. So I'm going to list a few. Paolo Maffei, Liz Bass, John Latore, Shelley Davis King, Larry Sidmore, and from our school boards, Linda Dewtemple, Marsha Williams, and maybe my boss, APCA Executive Director, Shelley Hance. These people have been around for a long time.
Hello, I'm Deanna Lamb. Canada Neff and I are presenting awards today for students and a class who have participated in a contest that was open to all students in Tuolumne County. And there were two categories. There's an essay contest, and there's an alternative to the essay, which can be any form of artistic expression, poetry, video, any number of different methods of creative expression. The goal of the contest is to engage students in learning about Dr. King and applying his ideals and principles in their lives. Loving eyes. And she wrote about him being an amazing person and someone she would like to be like. She received the second place prize of $50 and a certificate. Mally Peterson Wood. We have an increasing number of entries in our contest each year, and we are very grateful to teachers Brianna Willis and Mrs. Shaw from Somerville High School because they sent in a big package of essays.
That unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. I believe that right temporarily defeated is stronger than evil triumphant. I believe that peoples everywhere can have free meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. I believe that what self-centered people have torn down, other-centered people can build up. By the goodness of God at work within people, I believe that brokenness can be healed. And the lion and the lamb shall lie down together, and everyone will sit under their own vine and fig tree, and none shall be afraid. not rest until the dream of justice and freedom becomes my personal dream. I must realize that I am not an innocent bystander. I can help realize the dream by action, or delay it by inaction. Martin's dream of a day when people from all races and nations, even offsprings of slaves and former slave owners, can sit at a table as brothers and sisters and find ways of transforming their differences into accents. That was Martin's dream. What is my dream? My dream is that one day soon I will find a way to stop just celebrating the dream and start living it. It must become a part of my everyday life, or nothing much will change.